I'm sorry I can't let this day go by without an episode of Bipolar Backroom. My past research indicated that bipolar individuals most likely would kill themselves out of depression and other mental illnesses if there is a related mental illness to a mass shooting would be possibly other different mental illnesses. But as I have been researching last night and today, I found out new information that I want to share. And the research that I found is, yes, some mass shooters have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but research indicates that mental illness is not a primary driver of mass violence. The vast majority of people with bipolar disorder are not violent, and focusing on mental illness as the cause of mass shooting reinforces horrible stereotypes. The key findings from the latest research is that a small percentage of mass shooters have severe mental illness. A Stanford University study of 35 mass shooters between 1982 and 2019 found that 28 at least had one psychiatric disorder. Some had bipolar 1 disorder, which is different than bipolar 2, or mixed disorder, which I can talk to about another episode. However, experts from Columbia University found that severe mental illness, including severe bipolar disorder, was a factor in roughly 8% of mass murders in their database. Untreated mental illness is more common among shooters. I was doing research about diagnosed mentally ill shooters, but this is some information about untreated mentally ill shooters. Studies show that when a mass shooter is diagnosed with a mental illness, it is often untreated. In the Stanford study, none of the diagnosed assailants had received medication or other treatments for their disorders before their crimes. Most people with a serious mental illness are not violent. Major mental illnesses such as schizophrenic and bipolar disorder affect millions of people, and most are not violent. People with an mental illness are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. Sounds more like my original research. Other factors are more predictive of mass violence. When mental illness is a factor, it is often part of a combination of stressors, including a history of violence, substance abuse, childhood trauma, and severe personal loss. Most violence is not causally linked to mental illness. Fixating on mental illness is misleading. Emphasizing mental illness as the cause of mass shooting diverts attention from other contributing factors, such as access to firearms and a history of violence. These also increase the stigma that make it more difficult for people with mental illness people with mental illness have challenges to receive treatment. In all my viewing, I found one psychologist, doctor of psychology or psychiatry, that said what I've said at least 2 or 3 times to my husband. There should be multiple screenings for mental illness at different levels of education. At the time, I think personally, at the time you get a driver's license, at the time you vote. It's probably a dream answer that will never happen, but I felt compelled to say this information that I either have accrued or racked my brains for solutions for. Again, whether it's bipolar illness or other mental illness, we have to break the stigma and get the help and increase the help that is possible. And the insurance funding for mental illness, which has always been less than physical illness, but mental illness is just as real as physical illness. I hope this information helps you. I look forward to having a happier informational topic next episode. Thank you for listening.